This is 2025 Hacker Summer Camp Debrief, and we're going to go through some of the lessons that the three of us picked up at this year's Black Hat, DEF CON, and B-Sides Las Vegas conferences out in Las Vegas. Those happened in the beginning of August, as they usually do. Let me now introduce our speakers and let them say hi. First is Tanya Janca. Tanya, welcome.
Hi.
She is the founder. She's the founder of She Hacks Purple and a best-selling author, most recently of Alice and Bob Learn Secure Coding. Alice and Bob Learn Application Security. Before that, Alice and Bob Learn Secure Coding. And she is a CEO and secure coding trainer at She Hacks Purple Consulting. She's got a 28-year IT career. She's won many awards, including an OWASP Lifetime Distinguished Member and Hacker of the Year. And she has spoken everywhere, including at Hacker Summer Camp this year. She's trained thousands of software developers and IT security pros via her online academy at We Hack Purple. And, she has performed counterterrorism and led security for the 52nd Canadian general election, developed and secured countless applications. She's widely considered an authority on the security of software, application security, and secure development practices. Tanya, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul.
It's great to have you. Joining her is Faisal Farooq. Faisal is leads a team of cloud and security experts that partners with startup founders and operators to optimize their architecture, security, and performance and accelerate their go-to-market, co-sell, and co-build strategy at AWS, leveraging AWS's resources and ecosystem. He's also a lecturer in computer science at Hunter College. Faisal, welcome.
Thank you, Paul. Excited to be here. I'm in the presence of celebrities. Yes.
Really great to have you. Okay, so we're here talking about Hacker Summer Camp, and this is our agenda. We're going to talk about what we did at this Hacker Summer Camp, and of course, maybe our history at Hacker Summer Camp. And then we're just going to kind of go through our key observations, sort of what we saw, what we learned. What lessons we drew, and what lessons the audience might draw if you were there or not there. Let me start by saying I've got my DEF CON badges on. I've been going to these conferences for yes.
Paul, does that mean you solved each?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
okay.
hacked all the badges, solved all the challenges. Absolutely.
Love it.
Of course.
Love it. Love it.
Not at all. This is my first one, which is DEF CON 13. This is obviously before they went to the digital badges. And they're actually moving away from digital badges, which is interesting. So I've kind of seen that evolution. So this year's was this badge right here, which has like a whole bunch of, as you can see, kind of filters. And the idea was that they had clues embedded in the various signage and stuff around DEF CON, and you were supposed to use the filters to extract the clues and then solve puzzles, and they had little treasures kind of hidden around the conference. Very interesting. I didn't do that either. So I've been to a few of these. I'm interested in each of you. So Tanya and Faisal, what's your history with these shows?
Do you want to go first, Faisal?
Go ahead, Tanya. I'll go ahead.
My first year was 2014, and I went to DEF CON, and it was before I started doing public speaking on cybersecurity, or maybe I had just started, but I wasn't speaking outside of my little city with my little meetups and stuff. And I just started working in application security. Actually, I think that I was just doing consulting as a pen tester. I wasn't even working full-time in the field yet. I think I was still doing development until later that year. And I remember going and being quite overwhelmed. DEF CON is a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I caught malware in my first 11 minutes of DEF CON. Yes.
Ended up in the wall of sheep.
Yeah, I went to a workshop on buffer overflows, and I brought a Mac, and the guy, it turned out you had to have a Windows machine, but they didn't say that. And so the guy next to me is like, oh, here's a VM. You can use this. And then the guy running the workshops like, go to this website, go to that website, go to that website. Unbeknownst to me, the guy had given me an intentionally vulnerable Windows VM. And the guy has us surfing all over the internet to get these random things so that one of them was infected with malware. And it's like, it's been 11 minutes, DEF CON, come on. I decided I'd just like try another workshop.
That's quite the start at your first DEF CON Black Hat.
What about you, Faisal?
So my first one was, I think it was 2017. I was at the time with Booz Allen working with their cyber defense group. And I remember I think they were trolling me or pranking me. They're like, this scared me so much. Hey, you can't take your personal cell phone. You gotta leave your laptop. You definitely can't take the, company property and everything. So I did all those precautions. I actually had a burner phone on my first Black Hat DEF CON. But it was really overwhelming. I remember it being just like so much going on. And I was looking at the number of tracks that it has only increased. Of course, we have a lot of like AI related tracks this year, which we'll talk about. But my favorite memory is attending the social engineering village. I
Yeah.
loved that one. And
Yeah.
in this one, I think they called one of the car rental places and collected, it was incredible how they were able to collect all kinds of intel just by calling the customer service. So I
Yeah.
walked away
Social
thinking,
engineering.
it's like I'm gonna learn a bunch of like tech, but I think I learned the most like how human uh the security industry or field is. Like you can have all kinds of sophisticated technical controls and technologies. At the end, it took one call talking to a human.
I mean, we see that today, right? Which is all these, when you dig into all of these sophisticated attacks, stage one is almost always social engineering, right? Whether that's over the phone or, online. So my first was DEF CON 13 in 2004, I think.
Wow.
So I'd been a cybersecurity reporter for, I don't know, like 18 months or something like that.
Just a little while.
A long time, yeah. So I mean, this would be my 21st, or unless we do a zero-based counting, in which case it would be my 20th DEF CON. And it was at the Alexis Park Hotel, which you've probably never been to. It's this old, kind of open, it's like a bunch of huts and stuff around a pool, and there is a conference hall. But it was the last year they did it there, and I think the year you could tell like the show had way outgrown the hotel. So what I remember most was it being super hot and super crowded and really long lines, and going to sessions out under tents, with big fans blowing and stuff like that. Yeah, it was, but also, yeah, just seeing people sitting in the hall with like, antennas sticking out of their laptops and being like, wow, this is an interesting scene. And I was a reporter at that point, so I was really just trying to like get my bearings and sort of figure out what to cover and what to write about and who to talk to and stuff like that. But it
What's
was cool.
also really interesting, Paul, is when the transition happens from Black Hat folks leaving and DEF CON folks showing up. It's like, oh, it's
Yes.
like a vibe shift, in the hallways.
Yes.
The hoodies, the folks with
It's
the
really
antennas,
interesting.
poking
I
up.
mean, back in the early 2000s, honestly, in the first few of those shows I went to, it seemed to me like, do we really need two shows? Because like there's so much overlap. So many of the talks are the same between the two, and it seems like basically the same vibe. But now, 2025, and I think you guys would probably agree with this, very different communities, very different vibes at Black Hat, which is now corporate owned, and DEF CON, which is still kind of community based and community run. I mean, it's a private organization, but not owned by a huge corporation. You really see a different part of the InfoSec community at DEF CON than you do at Black Hat. And that has become much more pronounced in the last 20 years. So yeah.
It's funny, I've had some people say that this year they felt that DEF CON felt more corporate than ever before.
Mm.
And I was like, how so? Like I felt people I felt people were really well behaved.
Mm.
So like my first DEF CON, I had to slap hands from men touching
Yeah.
me multiple
Hmm.
times.
Is that
And I
right?
did not have to do that at all this year. But ever since basically I found a large online following, I haven't had too many people bother me, as you might expect. Turns out
Yeah.
when you can like tell 100,000 people very easily that people behave a little better around you. But other women have told me that it's much better now. And I feel like that's awesome. And groups like the Diana Initiative have helped with that. And like, you know,
Hmm.
organizers that care to improve the situation. So, but I don't feel that it felt corporate. Although I had some people tell me that. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Progress and
Yeah.
growth.
No, not
Yeah,
at all.
that's great to
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, that is one of the big um, issues and that have come up in the last two decades or decade even really is that first of all just um, the changing face of the information security community. So many
Yeah.
more women in it now than were in it 20 years ago, but also just, yeah, these shows, really needing to kind of uh, clean up the behavior and the vibe there. So yeah, and you are not the first person I've heard that from, and not just at the Hacker Summer Camp shows. This is something that happens at
Oh
many
yeah.
different InfoSec events. Less so now, but not a problem we've totally eradicated either. So yeah. Um, so just for the audience to know, did any of you, what were your role? What were you doing out at Hacker Summer Camp? Was this purely for self-development, or did you have an official capacity? What were you doing out there in Vegas? Faisal.
Yeah, so for me, I was meeting customers, so I was representing AWS, our team. We have incredible startups that were there, and I was there to support them because they're our customers. So it's primarily that, but then also it turned into personal too because it becomes that meeting spot, especially that Four Seasons lobby during Black Hat is everybody's
Oh
there.
my God.
Uh,
Yeah.
and it's been
So many things
happening
going
that
on there. Yeah.
it's great that way because you just show up there and then you just end up running into all the people you want to meet.
Right.
I actually met Mario last year right there we had a meeting with right there at Hawk in the lobby from ReversingLabs.
Maybe
So
Mario
yeah, for
Vixen, our
me it was
CEO.
supporting a customer. We were also hosting an event with our VC partners. We invited our customers and other kind of just the security community. So that was fun.
Nice.
Tanya.
Um, I do professional public speaking. That's basically my job is like training and speaking. And so I spoke 6 times. So I spoke at Diana
Wow.
Initiative, and then I spoke at the Black Hat Summit that was in advance the Financial Summit, and then I spoke at DEF CON 4 times because apparently I just can't get enough. So I was on the creator stage. I was at the AppSec Village twice. And I also spoke at the OWASP room, which is new. And so it's kind of exciting that now there's 2 application security options. Because when I started going to DEF
Yeah.
CON, it was just hacking. And now there's the software security defensive side in 2 different villages. And I'm like, oh, this is really good. That's the part where I'm the most excited, right? Because I'm a very blue type of defender. Like I do a lot of defense over offensive types of things. And so that was really exciting. I got to do like a workshop with 50 people. It was great. I got to be on a panel where they did a live podcast. That was exciting. I
Interesting.
did, yeah. And I met up with a lot of fun people and that was good too. Like I did a coffee meetup just outside Black Hat. I'm like, I'm buying coffee. Just show up. You don't have to sign up and I'll just buy you coffee. And lots of people came and it was great. And it turns out it's pretty, like both of you were saying, um, it's great because all the other people are there that you want to see.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. And you really, it does bring the community together in an important way. So I mean, I think you can meet people face to face, which, as we know, is super
Yeah.
super valuable these days.
I was going to
And kind of
mention
get a
Paul
sense.
that
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
even before getting there, this was my first time. I'm in San Francisco, so I was flying from here, which I was happy about because I'm from New York, and I used to take the 5-hour flight, and this was the first time. It was only going to be 2 hours for me, so I was happy about that. But I was going to mention, like, even at the airport, it was like all the like half the plane, or I think 3/4 of the plane was just all going to Black Hat. Um, so I actually met a lot of folks I wanted to meet. We just had a meeting right at the airport. It was fun.
So
I
great.
also had, I also have that where like I'm on the plane and I'm like, hi.
Yeah.
It's a good deal for sure.
Um, So what so I mean one of the interesting things about these conferences is just not just the sessions that you see, but also kind of who you meet there and what conversations you have. So I'm gonna break those both out. First of all, did either of you get to see any sessions while you were there, or were you basically work in the hallways? Because once you get to a certain point in your career, often, it's like I only saw the talk that I gave, or yeah, I was busy doing all this other stuff. But did any of you actually get to check out any sessions? No, Tanya, no.
I did
I
not.
got to see the part before I went on, so that was nice. So like at the financial summit, I got to see the talk before. At the AppSec Village, I got to see half of the talk before. But it's
Okay.
more, or maybe even just 15 minutes. And it's like, oh, those last couple slides, I guess that presentation was probably good, but it's hard to know what's going on halfway through the malware analysis. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm like, you show them who's boss. That's right. Um, but yeah, mostly I just got to attend my talks and my events, or attend other people's events, and then the whole time I'm just like blah 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 in the hallway. You're right, Paul.
Yep.
Same for
Faisal.
me. Yeah, it was mostly just meeting customers. I've been doing that more and more in the past 2-3 years, the breakfast meetings, early morning,
Yep.
because I just, by the end of the day and at the happy hours, I just can't have those meaningful, deeper, sit down, quiet, quiet place conversation. So I loved it. I had 2 or 3 breakfasts.
Good.
Uh, Shout out to Mary Bear, who's a friend. She organized one on Wednesday morning that I went to. That was awesome. I met a lot of cool people there. Um,
Oh, yep.
I was gonna mention something that slipped my mind. I did meet a few people who were telling me about these talks. I was like just bookmarking the session title within the website, and then I know we were gonna do this, so I caught up with. I love Clint does the TLDR Sec newsletter, so
Hmm.
I think he did one edition. It was all about sort of Black Hat talks he highlighted. So that was like my way of attending the sessions. So yeah, I have a few things I wanted to highlight from there. We can talk about it later.
Okay, so let's talk about what some of the themes were this year. We were all there, and like I said, you go to sessions and you learn stuff there. Maybe you don't. Even if you don't, you're talking to people in the hallway. You're talking to people at events outside of the show, and getting a sense of what's top of mind in the InfoSec community right now. Because these three shows, besides Las Vegas, Black Hat, and DEF CON, are three of the biggest kind of InfoSec shows anywhere, and they all happen in the same week. Um, so Tanya, I'll start with you. Based on your conversations, the coffee you had, and so on, what do you think? What's on people's minds?
Everyone is talking about AI, and everyone is asking me, why does it keep writing insecure code? How can I make it stop doing that? I'm really worried. The devs were already outpacing me, and now they're going faster than ever before, and I just don't know what to do about it. And I found, I don't know if both of you had those conversations. Yeah, just over and over again. AI and what are we going to do about it? Or
I had one of
whenever I
those
visited,
conversations with you.
yes, yes, it's true. It's
Yes.
true. And also vendors' booths promising, we've added AI and now we will
Yeah.
make all your dreams come true. And Tanya, is that true? I'm like, man, I don't know.
We're going to talk about that in a second because I think that's a topic in and of itself. Faisal, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you can't you couldn't escape AI at the conference. Not only this, even at RSA, it was the same when I attended. I think this year it was specific focus on agentic
Hmm.
AI. I met, I have the privilege of kind of working with startups who are always kind of like at the edge, kind of, inventing and reinventing things. I saw some really cool demos from some early stage startups who were there. I, I come from a sort of engineer practitioner background. So I used to work in a SOC, and I've spent nights, doing incident response. So I appreciated there's a real there's a lot of stuff is real that we can talk about, from a um, AI driven sort of SOC and things that used to take humans a lot of hours grunt work
Right.
that can now
Right.
be we have this great technology who can do that, which can be augmenting in that space. But to Tanya's point, there was a lot of like we added sprinkled AI to just try to figure out what it does. So
Yeah.
as I walked around in some of the booths and demos, it's like okay, it's a bit buzzwordy, but I do think there's some real use cases in cyber, especially on the defensive side, and you have to have AI augmentation because to Tanya's point, on the attacker side, we can't escape it. It's like there's no other choice.
Yeah. I mean, if you've been to these shows for any period of time, you see year to year that there is a tendency for companies to latch on to whatever the hot topic is and fold it into their marketing and so on, whether that's big data or cloud or what have you. If people are talking about it, they're going to find a way to attach it to what they're doing. But AI is kind of clearly transformative technology. I think the conversation is definitely about, is it better, is it going to empower attackers more than defenders? How is it going to shape, how we do security, right? Um, and I'm interested if you and Faisal, I mean, obviously you're working with startups and you're working with AWS, which is a huge platform for so many of these firms. You mentioned the SOC. I mean, one of the clear use cases I think we all see is, yeah, automation of a lot of that, especially low level security operations center work of, vetting logs and looking for, unusual patterns and that type of thing. Clearly AI is good at that. But what are our thoughts on, yeah, is it going to help the bad guys more than the good guys? What are some of the, low-hanging fruit in terms of applications for this, agentic or large language model AI? And Tanya, I'll start with you.
Oh, it's funny. I thought that Faisal was going first. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
okay.
we can
No,
start with
no,
Faisal.
no,
Faisal,
he
yeah,
could start. He could start. I
okay,
feel like he has some things he wants to say.
Sure.
sure.
Yeah, I think in terms of use cases, for sure, there's uh a lot happening in the, you know, incident response. How do we augment? If you think about it from a business perspective, the biggest cost line item in security is still humans. And,
Mhm.
and I think Tanya knows that world really well too, because it's like you're doing pen tests I mean, think about that world too. There's so many startups and big companies and vendors trying to tackle that because it's primarily done by humans today. There's a lot of opportunity to augment that with agents, AI, agentic AI. There was an interesting one, I think it was in Black Hat, one of the vendors, they basically have this agentic AI pen tester, and they were able to kind of found X number of vulnerabilities and publish CVEs. And so clearly it's like a human would have spent countless hours doing that, and then writing up a report and then submitting the thing. I think what's incredible is with MCP servers and agentic AI, the end-to-end automation you can do. So for tier one, tier two sort of analyst work, it's pretty much I think 80-90% you can have that end-to-end workflow automated. And then still, you do need those tier three, tier four analysts, forensic analysis kind of get in there, human in the loop for sure. And if anything, AI can be incredible augmenting there. That's one. And threat intel. I mean, Paul, I mean, you can talk more. I mean, there's
Yeah.
incredible use cases there. I see folks, doing all kinds of interesting things from, fine-tuning RAG. There's a lot of like security-focused SLMs popping up that I try sometimes. It kind of blows me away. It's incredible. Because we used to have a whole threat intel team sitting there sifting through the sort of feeds and then kind of like, okay, this particular IOC is relevant for a particular customer that we're working with. But now that stuff, you can
Automate it.
automate.
Right. Yeah. Tanya?
So I focus mostly on how to ensure that the software we create is secure. And the things that I am seeing coming out, so at first it was original types of tools like static analysis, software composition analysis, dynamic analysis, and adding AI to it, mostly for things like validating that these results are true positives, removing false positives, offering advices on mitigation and things like that. And I do think that's good. False positives make everyone ticked off and waste a lot of time, right? But I'm starting to see things where we're trying to shift security left. And by that, I don't mean purchase a product. I mean starting security earlier in the SDLC. And so, for instance, looking at a list of project requirements, running it through the AI and saying, hey, is this missing any security requirements? Like, are there things here that you think that should be here? Or you're doing a threat model and you're like, listen, this is the system that I'm building and these are the threats that I've came up with. Like, do you feel that I've missed some? Or do you feel, some of these are more likely than others? Or how would you defend against this threat? Like, we came up with it, but we're like, oh my gosh, there's like 10 options to fix it. Which one seems most effective or least expensive, etc. I also think that, or how about this? Right now, the AIs are writing code that's not great from a security perspective. I'm looking forward to seeing tools at the MPC level, like while you're actually coding, not after, that help the code that you are generating or creating be higher quality. That is what I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yeah. Interesting, Tanya, you mentioned, are there any tools have you tried to actually create security requirements even before a single line of code is written? I'm actually really interested in that space. And something we recently launched our an IDE, AI IDE, agentic AI IDE, you should call it. That's the way they're describing it. But I really liked it, that we were talking about like vibe coding and then what's secure vibe coding? It's a conflicting thing. It's like secure vibe code. That doesn't make sense. Secure vibe coding is by default, it's not secure. But there are, different frameworks and how we use this great use case of AI generating code, right? But then have it be secure. In our case, I'll mention the Kiro. It takes the approach of like spec-driven development. So, and I've been kind of playing around with this. It actually has two modes. You can vibe code, so you can flip it, and then you just kind of give it a prompt, and it'll actually do the entire thing for you. And you can define, within that your security requirements and what have you, but it's still vibe coding. But the other mode is spec-driven development, which is how Amazon at large, and you be kind of like we develop software internally. So you basically define your requirements and basically your specs. It generates a design and task list based off of that. The feature I like is that it really breaks down each task into a line item. Like, okay, now I first need to, create this model, this controller, this data model. It needs to kind of fix there. And then as it's doing that, you can be very granular about your security requirements. So now you can vibe code securely or get close to it, I think. It's gonna be
Yeah.
incredible. I think we need to have these tools because folks are
Yeah.
using I wonder, like, I don't know what I was trying to look for, like a good stat this morning on the percentage of code that is like AI written at this point. I think some folks have publicly kind of mentioned at big companies, but I couldn't find one. But I imagine it's a big piece.
Oh, sure, for sure. And I mean, I think the capabilities of these tools are amazing. I think one of the other um, themes at Black Hat, though, and DEF CON were the sort of flip side of that, which is that, these tools and some of the AI itself introduces either new risks or reintroduces old risks that companies do need to be mindful of as they look to implement these tools as part of their development process. I attended and wrote about a talk that two researchers from Cadelcy Security, Nathan Hamiel and Neil Zamiet gave called Hack to the Future, which is about owning AI-powered tools with old school vulns. And basically what they showed was that a lot of these tools, and they looked at a very popular code analysis, code review tool that's AI powered, are being implemented in ways that really leave these organizations vulnerable to, just kind of head slapping types of, remote code execution attacks and so on, because, they're not applying the concept of least privilege. The AI tools themselves are all about, hey, write this code. Okay, now execute this code. And, and give me, and it's sort of like, how could that's amazing. How could it be abused, right? And the sort of how could it be abused question, I feel like it's not like anybody forgot about that question, but it's not being asked a lot. I'm interested in your thoughts about what needs to change to get companies thinking not just about what AI can do for them, but also how some of these tools and technologies might harm them if they're not careful.
Paul, this is
Tanya.
all every single time we come up with a new technology, we get really excited and we completely forget about security. So we start creating APIs and we're like, awesome, I'll just expose that to the entire internet. There's not going to be a problem there. Oh, cool, serverless. I don't need to secure it because it's so short-lived. Oh, cloud. Like every time we do a new technology, it's like we lose our minds. All the same security hygiene, like least privilege. Like the idea of making sure we apply multiple layers of security because one layer could fail, right? Like all of these core principles of security were like out the window. Yeah, AI. And that's what I think is happening. And I think we need, so I am a broken record. We need to follow a secure system development lifecycle, and AI is a system, right? And so if we're going to build a security tool, we still need to do all those checks and balances. And so even if we do come up with super amazing tools that produce much, much more secure code than ever before, I still want to double check it, right? I still want to have some other system validate that this is safe. And maybe one day we'll be at a point where both systems can be fully automated. Maybe we will be, right? And that would be amazing, but we're not there yet. And I hope to help get us there someday, because then I'll be a very, very rich lady. But I feel like, yeah, the core principles still need to apply, Paul. And I'm sure, Faisal, that you're going to say the same thing.
Yeah, I was gonna just plus one that even in this sort of with this sort of AI step change, from a security perspective, the same foundations apply, right? Defense in depth, least privilege, secure your credentials, all those identity, right? All those things are the same. Those,
Yeah.
principles. Because we thought really sort of deeply about, my team ended up advising customers on, okay, how with this AI, how do we secure it? What's the security picture look like? It's the same. There are some new attack vectors. The velocity and intensity of some old ones is increased, right? There was just a recent botnet news that came out. RapperBot that our team at AWS actually assisted the DOJ, and that I still need to read the release, but that was incredible. And I think that was largely possible because of AI. You couldn't do that, I think, without the AI assistance there.
Right.
So that's
What
one.
does RapperBot do? Does it write raps? Sorry,
I wish it did
I am
that.
Speaking of which,
imagining. Sorry, Paul. Yes.
that's going to be the last part of the is us all rapping together. So hang in there.
Finally, finally.
Yeah,
And I was
something
going to
we
mention,
definitely don't want to
there's
see.
another interesting topic that came up during Black Hat Conversations was this whole topic of deepfakes and impersonator scams, and
Yes.
how,
On the social engineering front.
yes,
Yes. Yeah.
it's even recently, I think just 2 days ago, there was an article in Wall Street Journal where they actually kind of talked about it. In this particular case, it was YouTube CEO. There was an impersonating deepfake scam or issue where they were telling some of the content creators on how the monetization policy has changed, and they kind of, there was a bit of a issue there. But and also, I think it was last year there was the incident with one of the senators almost believed that they were interacting with
Yes.
another head of the country. And
Yes.
last minute, one of the staffers caught it because there was something finicky with the Zoom. That's the kind of thing I think I didn't find, like, from a solutioning perspective, from a defensive side. I don't know what to do there because it's the humans we're dealing with.
Absolutely.
If
Go
I could
ahead.
add on to that, another issue that I'm seeing specifically, especially this year, is so I am a content creator and I make almost all my money off of intellectual property or performing my intellectual property. And I am having contracts go across my desk where it's like, oh, we're going to record your voice and then we're going to use it to record audiobooks from now on and you won't be compensated. Cool. Oh no, I'm not kidding. We're going to train our AI on the phone,
Um,
like the consulting phone call, and then we're going to use that to create content, either with your name or without your name, to answer other clients so we don't have to have calls with you anymore.
Mm.
Basically, so having the AI impersonate people who, and essentially take our content and make a quote unquote derivative work
yeah.
of it,
We've heard
and
that
we
in
are
the context of
compensated
like
nothing.
Hollywood, but like clearly it's moving into other parts of the economy, not just Hollywood, right?
Oh yeah. Like I
Not that you're not a
use
star,
my
because you are.
yeah, yeah. No, but I use my voice to make money, whether it be albums that I recorded when I was a singer when I was younger, or narrating my own audiobooks, or speaking at conferences, right? And so like to have that just added on to a contract, or I was going to train at a conference, which will, or an event, actually, not a conference, but a big private event. And they're like, we're going to train the AI on your training and make derivative trainings from it. And I'm like, no, you are darn well not.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
every single contract you read now, you need to be extremely careful. So like a past employer now apparently is going to train stuff on a bunch of, like, a group that I was part of on our work, and then they plan to resell it. And I'm like, was that part of my original work contract that I signed, way before COVID, right? And so now I'm
Yeah.
trying to like find my old work contract to see like if I can be
Yeah.
compensated for that. And
Yeah.
they were saying that they would they're like, oh, well, we're considering doing like some sort of small micro payment per whatever. And as a person who is a musician that released multiple albums, you don't get paid very much to be played on the radio, but you
Uh,
better believe it, you get paid nothing to be played online.
On
Like I've had
Spotify. Yeah.
albums
Yeah.
for decades on Spotify and never gotten a single dollar from them, right? And I wasn't like super famous making zillions of dollars. I'm not Britney Spears, but to receive literally nothing, that's
Right.
problematic, right?
Yeah.
And so I am very concerned that our governments are not. So it's really exciting to not have to hire someone to do a job that we think is super boring, but also then now that person doesn't have a job. And
Mhm.
I think that, and everyone's like, oh, well, we'll do the more exciting, interesting work. Yes, I will, as a person that's exceptional, right? Like the people
Yeah.
on this
Yeah.
podcast were
Yeah.
exceptional. That's why we're on a podcast.
Yeah.
Not everyone's exceptional. By
Have an
definition, they're
exceptional number of
not.
badges.
Right? No, but I want every single person to be able to find work and support themselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like that's important. Like we won't have a
Absolutely. Yeah.
society if 80% of
Yeah.
us lose our jobs. And so I think
Yeah.
that that's a thing that the government and the industry needs to look
Yeah,
at.
I see the
And I,
passion, Tanya, and rightfully so, because this attack vector is especially problematic for folks like you who have a lot of their sort of profile
content. Yeah.
public domain, right? So it's very easy these
Mm.
days. The tools take 30 seconds of audio, and then you're kind of your even this webinar is being recorded, I think, out there. So it's like
Yeah.
your video out there available. So yeah, I see it. But I think
We are
there's
not using this video to train our AI models, just FYI, just to be clear. I mean, I feel like that was hanging over. I mean, I think it probably is hanging over everything these days, but definitely hanging over these shows too was this sense of, where are things going? Not where is the threat landscape going and how will companies provide, but like really where is the business model that we all have, come up in going,
Mhm.
and what is
Yeah.
our place in it going to be? I don't, wasn't like there were a lot of talks drilling into that topic, but I do feel like it was on a lot of people's minds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's unsaid, and I think we need to
Yeah.
say it. I think we're going to need to talk about it, and I think that our
Yep.
governments are going to need to take
Yeah.
action on it.
Yeah.
I know that right now there's a large battle going on about intellectual property and AI in the United States in the court system, and I am looking forward to the answer of what comes out of that. As
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
As we all are. Yeah. Especially you've been producing content for the last, 20 or 30 years. Yeah. So I would say to the audience, if you got questions for us, we'd love to take them. Use the Q&A feature, and we'd be happy to answer your questions. I mean, I think just a final kind of point before we start to wrap up. I mean, definitely one of the trends, and we've sort of touched on this that I saw was the as Tanya, as you said, the shift left on the part of attackers, the focus on supply chain security. I think that impacts large language model AI as well, because as ReversingLabs and others have shown, malicious actors are more than happy to dig into open source, Hugging Face, LLMs, and other, resources and assets that they can use to affect their, uh, uh, what they want to accomplish, whether that's just getting access to critical assets or, manipulating a large language model to get the output they want. What and what do we do about that? I mean, what sense did you get from these shows about that supply chain issue? I saw a lot, particularly at B-Sides, where they had a whole track on this, a lot of focus on critical infrastructure and some of the sort of dire outcomes that are looming out there for us. But interested in your thoughts on that.
I would say that, so first of all, I feel that the definition of supply chain security for software has greatly expanded. So it used to be just third-party components. So I'm going to include a library in my piece of software, and that's my supply chain. And that's certainly a very large part of it. But I think now we're changing that to, the AI model that I'm using to help me vibe code is part of my supply chain. All the code that's in my code repository. I've been fighting this for a long time, saying like our supply chain includes every single thing we use to make our software, because I've worked at places where we've lost our repo, and lots of wonderfully young devs who have always had GitHub, they don't understand my pain of having had like going to a workplace and they're like, we need you to try to recover this from like 8 machines of people that used to work here that like, we don't have a copy of like this old piece of code, but it's like mission
Yeah.
critical. So you just need to
Yeah.
figure this out, Tanya, like now. And I'm happy for those wonderful devs that have better tools than I started with. But I feel like every single part of the supply chain counts now. And so if your CI/CD is poisoned, because we have seen attacks upon like GitHub Actions and other types of CI systems, and now we're seeing attacks on like MPC servers, etc. Right? And so we're going to have to talk to developers or have that. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be the AppSec team's job, right, to secure that entire supply chain.
Right.
Like I've worked with so many IT security people where they're obsessed about which browser plugins that people have, but then you have devs just like pulling in like, I'm gonna pull in 25 different NuGet packages, and then I'm gonna like install these
Right.
plugins in my IDE and do all this stuff, and it's gonna call out to here and there. And before you know it, it's like, oh my gosh, what type of monster
Right.
have we created?
Right. And this is the problem that we're seeing in the context of AI too, which is, industry, whether that's software producers or manufacturers, are really focused on time to market, production, efficiency, low, and lowering costs. But often security is, a victim of those things. And I know, I mean, this is one of the things that the folks from Kudelski talked about, like, speed kills. Like, if your focus is really just on the efficiency and speed that you get producing software, but not on the security implications of that, you're really setting yourself up for a fall. Or maybe you're just setting your customers up for a fall. But it's a mentality that we haven't done a great job changing, but we do need to change. I'm not sure how that happens. So your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is really interesting, right? In the world where AI is, we're generating code. To Tanya's point, it used to be the software supply chain. Okay, what packages it was a very used to be a simple world just to, before Gen AI. But now, just imagine creating that graph of all the dependencies and uh, not only packages, but like models. And now there are cases where you might not even know what underlying model are you using and where
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's coming from. And then just downstream following how that provider is securing their model tuning and what have you. So there's a lot of sort of attack vectors exist. CI/CD is another one. So you need to kind of really, I think there was a great talk at Black Hat too that I kind of bookmarked on the TJ Actions supply chain breach. I think it's on the
There was Step Security did
yes,
that
step
talk.
security.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the
Yep.
one. So I've bookmarked it to kind of read more about what they talked about, but I thought that caught my eye. I think that was an interesting
So I
one.
did an interview with those two
Oh,
researchers, and
interesting.
we're gonna be publishing that in the next
Maybe tell us
week
a
or
little
so.
bit more, Paul. Maybe I thought that was interesting where they're like, we really need to think about CI/CD security that Limelight, which it was kind of not top of my mind, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a super, I mean, and this is stuff that Reversing Labs has written about as well, about really, taking a hard look at, your whole CI/CD pipeline and, how malicious actors might compromise your development pipeline. And, I mean, this is an incident that happened, a few months back, I think May or something. But yeah, I mean, super widely used. And, I think the very foundation, the sort of baseline, the foundation of trust and just the assumption that, what we're using and popular packages that we're seeing out there on widely used, open source repositories are trustworthy and safe and secure. Those very foundational assumptions need to be questioned because
Yeah.
kind of TJ Actions or um, the utils hack
Yeah.
or 3CX or SolarWinds XC utils show us sophisticated compromises can happen. And what we've seen at RL also is that even even malicious packages, like attackers are doing a lot of work to make malicious packages look very respectable on major platforms, like creating hundreds of developer accounts to, to do pull requests, put 5 stars on it, leave, I mean, so you
Yeah.
really gotta reorient yourself to a world in which attackers are spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to make it into your development pipeline.
True.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of it is sophisticated in the sense that the package doesn't have to be malicious initially, but once
No,
you're part of the executils, I mean, that kind of told us a little bit kind of forewarning on where this is evolving to.
that's right.
You have earned the trust, right? You have gone past your behavioral sort of anomaly detection type of systems. Then it's like you could make a commit
Right.
and off you go.
And then, you got everybody, doing automatic dependency updates, which, in theory is a security positive practice, right? Like getting the latest version of all your software dependencies. That's true, unless, right, one of those updates happens to have a backdoor in it, in which case, so it's very, yeah, these are difficult questions. Tanya is.
I wish that there was some sort of regulation that we could have on these things. So like in Canada, we have this company called Shopify, and their AppSec team has worked for many, many years to secure the Ruby ecosystem. So Shopify is written in Ruby, and they have this huge bug bounty, and they've paid millions of dollars in bounties and spent their own developer time fixing many, 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 many Ruby packages. And they're like, well, of course, if we're going to use them, we need them to be safe, right? And of course, we would give it back to the ecosystem. And
Right.
I think the fact that every company doesn't work that way is kind of terrifying. I remember working at a place that will remain unnamed, and we were using Zap, which at the time was under the OWASP umbrella. And I was like, I'd like to donate $5,000 to Zap. And they're like, no. I'm like, well, you wanted to buy a dynamic scanner and you were going to pay like 50K for it. So why can't we make a donation of 5K so we can make sure that Zap keeps zapping, right?
Yes.
And they're
Yeah.
just like, and they looked at me like I was a complete moron, that I would
Right.
give money away for no reason, rather than, no, this is help us assure that this product continues to exist, that is free. It's not because I'm buds with the people on the team. It's because I need those people to keep doing that amazing work they're doing. Right. And now it's gone under the Checkmarks umbrella, which is fantastic because we can make sure that it remains high quality. But what if those people stopped volunteering every single evening and weekend for us? Right. Yeah. So I feel like we keep complaining about the open source thing and like building these tools. Like imagine if we spent all the money that we each spend on software composition analysis instead securing the ecosystem.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it is, yeah, I mean, our reliance on volunteer labor basically via open source is kind of mind-boggling. And I know companies like Google and Amazon and Microsoft and others are putting resources, money towards, particularly some of these widely used, projects and libraries and so on. But as we know, that ecosystem is vast. And it's like the log4j, or the XEutils, so many critical components, one person projects, unsupported, unfunded, so yeah, that is, yeah. Anyway, okay, we got to wrap up. We're almost out of time. I wanted to, first of all, call out that 5 of our attendees today are going to receive a free copy of Tanya's new book, Alice and Bob Learn Secure Coding. You're going to be randomly chosen to receive a free copy of Tanya's book. So check your email and pay attention. And we have a upcoming on August 27th, Beyond Virus Total. So for those of you who are using Virus Total and having eye-popping experiences looking at the fees from Google now that they've acquired Virus Total, you might want to check this out because we got here at ReversingLabs a much more affordable and better performing option. check out our chainmail newsletter on LinkedIn. And Tanya and Faisal, I'd leave it to you. Just some closing thoughts here. If you were to, kind of walk away and say, here's what I got out of Hacker Summer Camp this year. Here's what to know. What would your parting thoughts be?
I would say, if I can go first,
Yep.
we talked, so a lot of people were talking about critical infrastructure, and I know that all of us meant to talk about it on this and we kind of ran out of time. But I would like to propose that the software that we absolutely rely upon is critical infrastructure. A lot of people think about like, oh, it's the phone lines, it's the cell phone towers, it's the internet, it's these other more physical types of things. But software runs the world now, and certain software is critical to our nation's continuing to run, to our businesses continuing to exist. And I think that needs to be part of the definition from now on.
100%. Faisal.
Great. I'll say a bit more the critical infra stuff. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night. I get easily shaken by things like that. Just last year, we had a few kind of public headlines on this. Especially the one that comes to mind is one of the water utilities were kind of they found it was a close call there. Let's just call it that.
Yeah.
So 100%.
Well, we hope it was a close call.
Yeah.
They found a lot of evidence of compromise. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I would say
Interesting
from the AI perspective, all the sort of security practitioners, defenders, folks are kind of in this industry. Let's lean in. We need more folks trying this technology from a defensive perspective. So let's do that. And just I guess a plug, if you're a startup building something interesting, exciting, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn, or if you could drop me a DM, happy to support.
Great. And I would just close by saying, I gave a couple talks out at B-Sides and DEF CON on this issue of just needing smarter cyber policies, really, going forward. I started a nonprofit called Secure Resilient Future Foundation, where we're focused on this, and you can check us out. But yeah, I'm with you too. I think, huge amount of potential in technologies like AI, but we also need some, clear definitions for organizations out there, and some clear standards oriented around things like public health and safety and wellness, and of course, consumer rights and things like that. And hopefully, we'll see some of that progress in the years ahead. Thanks everybody who joined us, and again, stay tuned. Next week we got another webinar coming up. Tanya and Faisal, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us and talk about your Hacker Summer Camp, what you did at Hacker Summer Camp.
Thank you, Paul, Tanya. Great, amazing
Oh,
spending time together.
Been
thank
great.
you both
Been a
so
great
much.
experience. Thanks everyone.
Bye.
See you all later.